230,000 Britons, 10,000 Romans, one day of battle. 80,000 Britons dead. Romans lost 400 men. Casualty ratio 1 to 200. But here's what's insane. The Britons brought their wives to watch the victory. Wagons with families lined up in a semicircle, like stands in an amphitheater. Within an hour, those wagons became a trap. We're about to break down how Roman tactics turned a 23-to-1 ratio into a barbarian massacre. 60 AD, Britain. Roman procurator Decianus Cattus decides that Boudica, queen of the Iceni tribe, has too high an opinion of herself. Her husband is already dead, and she dares argue about debts and territories. Roman soldiers burst into her home. Boudica is tied to a post and publicly flogged. The Romans wanted to break the pride of a barbarian queen. They got a war. Boudica raises a rebellion. Tens of thousands of warriors flock to her. Iceni, Trinovantes, other tribes. Thirst for vengeance fuses them into an army of 230,000 enraged Britons. For them, this isn't just war. This is sacred revenge for violated honor. First strike, Camulodunum, a Roman colony. The city is defended by only 200 veterans. Britons break inside within hours. They take no prisoners. The temple of Claudius burns with those who hid inside. Next, Londinium. Procurator Cattus, the same one who ordered Boudica flogged, has already fled to Gaul. Roman commander Suetonius Paulinus orders evacuation, but many don't make it. Britons burst into the city. Massacre begins. Archaeologists find in London a layer of red burnt ash nearly half a meter thick. Beneath it, charred remains. Londinium burned to the ground. Another city, Verulamium, disappears in flames. Total count? 70,000 Romans and allies of Rome killed in a few weeks. 3 cities wiped off the map. Britons are drunk with victory. Boudica's army grows daily. Entire tribes join her. Everyone tired of Roman taxes, Roman laws, Roman arrogance. They see smoke over cities and believe this is the beginning of Rome's end in Britain. Ahead lies only Suetonius's last legion, a pathetic 10,000 against their 230,000, 23-to-1 ratio. Britons are certain this will be the final slaughter. Boudica believed revenge would make her free. In a month, that revenge will kill 80,000 of her people. Revenge or calculation, which matters more for victory? But the Roman commander does one thing, and it decides the fate of 230,000 people. Suetonius Paulinus looks at a map of Britain and understands there's nowhere to run. His legion, the 14th Gemina, and parts of the 20th Legion total 10,000 men against 230,000 enraged Britons. No reinforcements coming. Boudica is advancing. He could retreat to the sea, board ships, sail to Gaul. The Senate would understand. Forces are unequal. But Suetonius isn't one to flee. He's a veteran of dozens of battles, pacifier of Mauritania, an iron professional. If he's going to die, it'll be in a way the enemy remembers. He chooses a location, a narrow gorge somewhere in central Britain. Behind the legion's back, dense forest, impassable for an army. On the sides, steep slopes. Ahead, an open field that narrows toward the gorge like a funnel. This is the perfect position. The enemy can attack only from the front, on a narrow front, not 230,000 simultaneously. Maximum 100 or 200 men in the first line. The Britons' numerical advantage is neutralized by geography. Suetonius arrays his legionaries. In the center, heavy infantry and armor with shields and short gladius swords. On the flanks, auxiliary cohorts. Behind, near the forest, cavalry. Every man knows his task. The Roman army works like a mechanism. Boudica approaches with her horde. Britons see the picture and rejoice. Romans are cornered. The forest blocks retreat. Slopes prevent maneuver. Legionaries have nowhere to run. Only stand and die. Boudica is so confident of victory that the Britons do the incredible. They bring families on wagons to watch them destroy the Romans. Thousands of wagons line up in a semicircle behind the British army, like stands in an amphitheater, like spectator seats at the circus. Women settle on carts with food and wine. Now the show will begin. Now 230,000 British warriors will tear apart 10,000 Roman invaders. This will be a spectacle Britons will tell their grandchildren about. Boudica rides around the host on a chariot. She shouts, points to scars from Roman whips, reminds them of burned cities, of 70,000 dead Romans. Warriors roar, beat swords against shields. Fury heats to the limit. Suetonius rides around the legion. He speaks briefly. Hold formation. Listen to commands. Do what you were trained to do. Legionaries are silent. Check equipment. Plant pylons in the ground nearby. Close shields. Britons are certain of victory. In an hour they'll understand. Numbers mean nothing when the enemy chose the right place for your death. The Britons begin their attack.
The first wave of Britons rushes at the Roman line. This isn't an organized attack. This is an explosion of fury. Tens of thousands of warriors with long swords, axes, spears. They scream, wave weapons over their heads. The ground shakes from the trampling. Romans stand silent, a wall of shields. Spears thrust forward at an angle. Legionaries in 3 ranks. First holds the impact, second backs up, third is ready to replace the fallen. These aren't men. This is a killing machine. Britons crash into the Roman line. The narrow front of the gorge does its work. Maximum 100 or 200 can attack simultaneously. The other 230,000 crowd behind, press forward, climb ahead, but can't reach the enemy. The first line of Britons falls instantly. Roman pilums, heavy javelins, launched in a volley from 10 meters. They pierce shields, skewer bodies. Weighs 2 kilograms, bent so it can't be pulled out. A shield with a stuck pilum becomes useless. You have to drop it. The second line reaches the shields. Romans extend short gladius swords. Strike to the belly, strike to the throat, strike to the thigh where the artery runs. No wide swings, only short thrusts from behind the shield. 3 seconds, 1 dead Briton. Britons fight for freedom and honor. Romans fight for salary and pension. Guess who wins? Britons fight bravely. They're strong, tall, fierce. But their long swords require swing room. In a dense crowd, there's no room to swing. Romans work methodically. Rotation. Tired legionary steps back to the 3rd rank. Fresh one steps forward. No fatigue. The mechanism works flawlessly. After half an hour, a wall of corpses waist-high grows at the gorge. Next waves of attackers climb over the bodies of their tribesmen, slip on blood, stumble. Romans stand and kill. Tacitus writes an astonishing phrase: Romans grew tired of killing. Legionaries rotate every 15 minutes, but hands go numb from repetitive movements.
The gladius enters flesh, exits, enters again, blood up to the elbows. Britons keep attacking. Fury won't allow retreat. Families watch from wagons, can't show cowardice. They climb straight onto Roman swords. An hour passes. The wall of corpses has grown higher than a man. Britons scramble up, slide down, fall. Morale begins to break. Suetonius sees the moment. Order, counterattack. Romans open the center and release cavalry. Riders crash into exhausted Britons in a wedge. Behind them comes infantry, in formation, tight, methodical. Britons wavered. Someone turns and runs. Panic is contagious. They run toward the wagons, toward families, toward the only place to take cover. The trap closes. Thousands of wagons arrayed in a semicircle block retreat. Britons crash into their own baggage train, crush women, carts overturn, chaos. Families don't see triumph. They see warriors fleeing in panic, trampling loved ones, dying from Roman swords. Romans follow, methodically, in formation. They kill everyone, so no one escapes. This isn't battle anymore. This is cleanup. The massacre lasts until dark. When legionaries stop, mountains of bodies lie around. 80,000 dead Britons. The field is covered with corpses for hundreds of meters. Romans lose 400 men, 1 to 200. But how is this possible? The numbers seem incredible, but behind them stands a system. Casualty ratio 1 to 200. 400 Romans dead, 80,000 Britons. Tacitus records these figures. Cassius Dio confirms. Archaeology doesn't contradict. Mass burials are found throughout central Britain. How did 10,000 defeat 230,000 with losses under 5%? Geography. Suetonius chose terrain where enemy numbers don't matter. Narrow front means 230,000 fight as 200. The rest just stand and wait. They don't help, they hinder. Press from behind, create a crowd, block maneuver. Weapons and armor. A legionary carries 20 kilograms of iron, helmet, segmented armor, shield with iron rim. Gladius, short sword 50 centimeters, created for close combat. Strike to belly, strike to throat. 2 seconds, opponent dead. Britons fight with long swords 80 to 90 centimeters. A strike needs swing room. In a dense crowd, it's impossible to swing. Almost no armor, leather tunics. Roman gladius pierces leather like paper. Training and discipline. A legionary trains every day for 6 hours. He stabs at dummies, learns to hold formation, delivers strikes from below upward. He rehearses rotation, exit from first line to third without breaking formation. A British warrior learns to fight one-on-one. Personal bravery, strength, fury. This works in a duel. In battle against 10,000, personal bravery doesn't matter. Synchronization matters. Psychology of the trap. Britons brought families to watch victory. They'd just burned 3 cities, killed 70,000 Romans. For them, this wasn't battle, this was execution, a formality that would end in an hour. The cities they burned were defended by merchants, craftsmen, elderly veterans, a few hundred people against tens of thousands. Britons decided this is what war with Rome looks like. Easy, fast, victorious. That's why they brought families. Arranged wagons in a semicircle. Brought food, wine, festival atmosphere. Britons didn't understand the Roman system of war. For them, battle is personal bravery. Strongest wins. Numbers decide the outcome. Romans thought differently. For them, war is engineering. Calculation, tactics, discipline. 1 trained legionary equals 10 barbarians. Not because he's stronger, because he's more efficient. When Britons ran to the wagons, families didn't see warriors triumph. They saw warriors fleeing in panic, trampling loved ones, dying from Roman swords. Festival turned into nightmare in minutes. Romans made no distinctions. The order was simple: no one leaves. Revenge for 70,000 dead Romans was merciless. Britons brought families to a slaughter because they didn't understand who they were fighting. They thought they were fighting men. In reality, they faced a system. 230,000 against 10,000. 1 day, 1 battle, 1 fatal barbarian mistake. They thought numbers and fury decide everything. Romans proved otherwise. System defeats chaos. Discipline defeats fury. Tactics defeat courage. A narrow gorge turned an army into a mob, and a mob into a target. Boudica started war with revenge for humiliation, ended it by taking poison with 80,000 dead tribesmen. Britain remained a Roman province for another 350 years. The rebellion ended in 1 hour of slaughter. Organized minority always defeats disorganized majority. In business, a small team with clear processes destroys a large company with management chaos. In politics, a disciplined party crushes a loose movement, even if it's bigger. In war, 10,000 trained professionals are worth more than 200,000 enraged mob. Today, we romanticize barbarians. Freedom, independence, warrior spirit, beautiful. But barbarians laid dead in piles while Roman mercenaries counted loot. Romans loses to pragmatism, inspiration to system, emotions to calculation, always.
Your competitor may be more talented, creative, passionate, but if you have a system and they have chaos, you'll win. Boudica was braver than Suetonius. Suetonius was more systematic than Boudica. Suetonius received a triumph in Rome. Boudica chose to leave this life. We call Boudica a heroine, Suetonius a cruel invader. But Boudica led 80,000 of her people to death with emotions. Suetonius saved 10,000 Romans with calculation. Who's the real hero? British tribes learned the lesson. Against the Roman system, courage is useless. You need your own system. But that took 350 years. Barbarians were brave. Romans were disciplined. Courage impresses. Discipline wins. Did you know that 300 years later the Roman system collapsed? Not from barbarians, from internal decay, when discipline was replaced by money and training by politics. How the world's greatest army fell apart from within? Next video. The story there is even more tragic than this one.